Cap, what's going on over there?
Every good superhero needs a good superhero base, and that's even more true for a superhero team, especially one that needs to be reassembled. And what better metaphorical place for Marvel's Avengers team to rebuild than in the hull of a broken down helicarrier, which will itself be built up over the course of Avengers' campaign. But that giant mobile home known as the Chimera will be a hub for players both in the campaign as well as when they venture into the Warzone postgame, which will continue the life of Marvel's Avengers well past its launch, with new locations, characters, and more. Given how key the Helicarrier is to every player's Avengers experience, Crystal Dynamics' Warzone director Phil Theron dove into the inner workings of the Helicarrier with us, offering us more details on how players can expect it to progress, the role factions play in the Chimera, and more. Showcases for Marvel's Avengers so far, including the A-Day demonstration from E3 2019 and the Thor gameplay from the recent War Table presentations, have shown plenty of Helicarrier action in the upcoming adventure. And Theron offered a bit more context for how the Chimera's journey fits into the campaign.
You kind of see, how things go poorly for the Helicarrier early on in the story. You spend a good chunk of the campaign rebuilding it, and part of rebuilding the Helicarrier is also rebuilding the Avengers. So it kind of goes hand in hand in many ways. So as you're getting them back together and as you're finding technology that maybe Tony needs to do, modifications and stuff, the Helicarrier starts to get more functional, and it will literally go from a broken husk that's missing its windshield and everything to having people that are on there, having the faction members that rejoin, having services that get opened up. So the Helicarrier really represents how the Avengers and the factions sort of like start to re-glue together, with obviously Kamala being sort of like the principal catalyst for making all that happen.
Kamala may be the unexpected but clear hero of Marvel's Avengers in a number of ways, as she endeavors across the campaign to reunite Iron Man, Thor, Black Widow, and Hulk. That unification can uniquely be shown in tandem with the Chimera's repairs, and it's a progression Theron thinks players should experience, even if they're primarily interested in playing multiplayer. As Theron explained, jumping into the Warzone content essentially puts you in a quote post-game state of Marvel's Avengers' world, which might rob you of some of the character context and connections you'll form from playing the campaign.
I would encourage people to play through the campaign, even if they're still interested in just playing multiplayer. I get it, totally. But seeing all that get put together is such a great context for all the events that happen post-campaign. Currently, all the changes that you'll see on the Helicarrier are based off of campaign progression. So you'll get the Helicarrier in its fully functional state if you went straight to multiplayer, because all the facilities need to be open for it to be functional, and you need to have access to everything.
And as Theron alluded to, it won't just be the Avengers calling the Chimera home. As demonstrated in the first War Table, new factions will set up shop and seek assistance from players, including S.H.I.E.L.D., Inhumans, and more.
You encounter like some S.H.I.E.L.D. people, you'll help them out in a mission, and then you'll see those people show up on a Helicarrier, and then all of a sudden there's a vendor that's available, and they're like, hey cool, we're rebuilding, and we got all this gear that we're making for the Avengers.
These new additions are where a lot of that added functionality comes from, and the way it's all integrated speaks to what Crystal Dynamics wants to do in making the campaign and Warzone missions all part of one larger world.
You're helping them rebuild, and there's some story built around that, so you'll understand, oh cool, what was Maria Hill up to when all this happened, and what is she trying to do now? And it's one of those things where we're starting that story, and in war zones and post-campaign, we're going to keep building onto it because the threats are going to keep escalating and the factions are going to have to step it up.
And naturally, there are some key gameplay incentives to invest in these various factions and their stories.
You're getting faction experience when you help them out, and the factions give you access to some really good gear, and these vendors relocate in part on the Helicarrier and in part in another space that we haven't talked about too much.
But more than anything, the Chimera HQ speaks to Crystal Dynamics' ongoing storytelling approach. As Marvel's Avengers plans to bring new characters, locations, and more to its world post-launch, players will get quite familiar with their superhero home.
It's an exciting thing for us because it gives us this huge canvas to tell stories, which is such an unprecedented opportunity. Like, you can make a game with a really cool Marvel story that comes to an end, but the idea that we can make a game that is made for telling Marvel stories, that literally is ready to accommodate all these extras, right? That's just super cool. So yeah, the factions will keep growing, and as the threats keeps escalating, they'll keep getting more and more involved.
For more on Marvel's Avengers, check out our 2-part combat breakdown, and for everything else in the world of Marvel, you're already in the right place, IGN.